Welcome, friends and enemies, to the Castlecast. A channel where we talk about Dungeon Synth, dark ambient, and fantasy electronic music. I'm your host, Kevin and Hell. Thanks for tuning in. This has been the first episode I've done in a while. I've been busy moving, changing jobs, and a whole bunch of other real-world stuff. But as I've been moving, I've been unpacking my records, and I want to do a video to go through some of my favorite non-Dungeon Synth records. So I'm going to get started here with a few of them. One record that I've really loved for my entire life, The Prodigy, Fat of the Land. This is a classic UK big beat record. Obviously, I'm sure everyone here knows Firestarter, Breathe, all the classics. I remember seeing the video for Breathe when I was, 8 or 9 years old. And I absolutely loved what was going on. When they re-dropped that record a year or two ago for its anniversary, I had to pick it up. That is a huge record that got me into drum machines and synths that would eventually have led me to Dungeon Synth. Another classic one that has been a constant for me, 9 Inch Nails, The Fragile. One of my favorite albums of all time, probably my most listened to album throughout high school. Trent Reznor, 9 Inch Nails, another huge reason why I started getting into synths. He was a huge reason why I started making music in the first place. Downward Spiral and the Broken EP as well were huge on me, but I think The Fragile is about as perfect and epic of an album as they come. The sounds on there, the emotions, the songwriting, it's all fantastic. Another huge band for me, Snapcase, Looking Glass South. This was one of the first shows I ever went to. We used to have a little club here called Babylon, and I saw Snapcase. They're kind of a hardcore, I don't even know what to call them, alternative hardcore, I guess, but I've loved that band since the moment I heard them. When I sang in metal bands and hardcore bands, my vocal style really came from what they were doing. A lot of my guitar playing style came from what they were doing. I saw them twice that year. Some of the first shows I ever went to, I was probably grade 9. And that band has stayed with me. I wish they were still together and they would come tour so I could go see them again. Another huge album for me, My War by Black Flag. If you know me, I've got the cringy red flag, black bars tattooed on my hands. I love them. Greg Ginn was probably the whole reason why I picked up a guitar and started making music. The ethos of Black Flag, the DIY attitude. That record has so many of my favorite songs on it. I used to just walk around listening to that album on repeat. One of my favorite albums of all time, and my foray into punk rock started with that specific record. Got a newer one here. This is Deaf Kids. I'm not going to try to pronounce it right. Metaprogramacho. They are a Brazilian band. I don't even know how to describe it. That album is a work of art. It's recorded live off the floor. There's electronics, it's drums, bass, and guitar. Tons of echoes, tape loops, crazy vocals. It's a masterpiece of an album and one of my favorite records of the past 10 years, 20 years. They did a split a couple years ago with Pet Brick, which is another band from, well, it's featuring Igor Cavalera on the drums. And that Pet Brick Def Kid split is also amazing. Here's another album. I couldn't really just pick a single Boris album. If you know me, you know I'm a Boris freak. I love this band. I drove to New York to go see them a couple months ago. I chose this record because I'm also a huge Nick Drake fan, and this is just such a great little Nick Drake tribute. But I could have picked 10 Boris albums on here. Flood, Heavy Rocks, 1, 2, and 3, Pink. Just Boris does it for me. Here we go, another record that I've been spinning a hell of a lot lately. Again, another name I can't really pronounce. You know what it is. It's the Pale Swordsman. I have his other record as well, Love and Night. They're both amazing. Some of the best black metal I've heard in a really long time. What he's doing with it is fantastic. I love how off it is. The drums are just all over the place, but it makes it so good. He just dropped another new single. I'm excited for a new album from him. Kekadaktal. I'm a simpleton. I can't pronounce those things. And no one I know talks about them, so I don't know how they're pronounced. Obviously, we gotta go. Again, hard time choosing one, but I think Transylvania Hunger might be my favorite Dark Throne album. It was the first one I heard when I was in high school, and I won't lie, it did not do it for me. Somebody had, back in high school, I listened to lots of Slayer. I was really into In Flames and At the Gates. Somebody gave me that Dark Throne record and the first Emperor record, the first 2 Emperor records, if I'm remembering correctly, and the Dark Throne one. Emperor I kind of got into right away. The Dark Throne one, that took me a couple more years before I really started appreciating that Dark Throne album. But that is a constant one, and it has grown to be one of my favorite, if not my favorite, black metal albums. Rain and Blood by Slayer. This album, we all know it. It's amazing. It's a 10 out of 10. It's only like 24 minutes or something. But this record has a special place with me, as it came out on the day I was born. So I take great pride in being ushered into this world at the same time that Slayer's Angel of Death came out. I can just imagine that I'm the scream at the start of the song, the baby exiting the womb. Another huge album for me, getting into drum machines. Godflesh, Street Cleaner. If you haven't listened to this album, you should probably stop and go listen to it. Justin Broderick, the genius behind so many projects. Side 1 of the first Napalm Death album, Godflesh, JK Flesh, Jesu, Techno Animal, the list could go on. But Street Cleaner has some of the best programmed drums. I think it's an Elisa's HR-16. And the drums just sound so huge on it. That is another album that I can throw on constantly. Desert Island album for sure. I can listen to that album on repeat and never get sick of it. Alright, we're gonna get a bit crazy right now. This is a Coil album called Selvagina, Go Back Into the Woods. And this is a Russian live bootleg from a show they did in Italy in 2004. It has some of my favorite versions of lots of their songs. Coil is another band for me that just sent me on a totally different path musically. But sometimes the intro track on here is a million times better than the studio versions they did to it. Tattooed Man has a great version on this one. Teenage Lightning has a great version on this. Amethyst Deceivers is fantastic on this recording. I don't even remember how I stumbled across this record, but I know as soon as I saw it in the store, I had to spend whatever money they were asking for it. Another excellent album that I'm sure some of you are familiar with, Typo Negative's October Rust. Again, I could choose this or Bloody Kisses. This was another album that I loved in high school. I've got my Fernandez guitar here for maximum Typo Negative worship. Pete Steele, Missed Every Day. He is such a great songwriter. Typo Negative is so amazing. They take the whole super serious goth style and just turn it on its head, and in turn become the most goth band of all time. My Girlfriend's Girlfriend, their Cinnamon Girl cover, Be My Druidess, all amazing songs. You got another one here. This is from maybe last year, maybe the year before. Time Wave Zero by Blood Incantation. Now normally they are a hard riffing death metal band, but on this album they went full on Brian Eno synth exploration. Give you the good gear shot on the inside of this album. It's a crazy ambient soundscape. It's only 2 tracks, but I'm sure lots of fans of Dungeon Synth, if you haven't checked out this Blood Incantation record and their EP they just put out this year, The Luminescent Bridge, has 2 tracks. One of them is in that vein, super ambient, atmospheric, sci-fi thing, and then the other track is more of their death metal style, their death metal side. And down to my last couple here, I've got my album of the year, my favorite record that I've heard drop this year, Inevitably Dark by Xasthur. He came back to the black metal side for this album, even though it's not really that black metal. There are black metal parts to it, but it's really a culmination of all his work. And he put out this album and it's fantastic. I love it. It's so weird. There's jazz parts. There's really abrasive drum machine stuff going on there. It's all instrumental. He did include lyrics, so if anyone wants to pick this up, they could record their lyrics as they see over top of the songs, which I think is a pretty cool thing that he did here. But if you haven't yet checked out Inevitably Dark, I think lots of Dungeon Synth fans could dig on this one, but it is all over the place. And now we'll get into another record, one of my favorite albums of all time, perhaps my most listened to album of all time. I throw this on probably every week still, and I think I have since I was 13 or 14 years old. I just picked up a new edition with a bunch of posters and booklets. But we're talking Celtic Frost, 2 Megatherion. We talked about Pale Swordsman, earlier. You wouldn't have the without Mr. Tom G. Warrior. This just, look at the picture. Look at these Adonis, pure Chad energy coming from all 3 of them. And this whole record, front to back, is one of my favorite things of all time. The riffs on here are so good. The lyrics are so good. The vocals are so good. There's not enough good things I could say. It's got H.R. Geiger artwork on it. Satan using Jesus as a slingshot. What more do you want? Tom G. Warrior. The first record, Morbid Visions, was pretty amazing, but they really stepped up their game on 2 Megatherion, my maybe all-time favorite record, although that changes a lot. Anyway, that's just a little sample of some of my non-Dungeon Synth record collection. We'll get into more videos talking about Dungeon Synth soon. I'm mostly set up in the new place, starting a new job with a lot more hours, so I'll hopefully have the time to get a lot of these videos done, and I'm going to keep doing my reaction videos, and I'm almost done with another one of my Dungeon Synth history videos, so keep an eye out for that. Thanks for joining. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you again soon. Cheers.